A new social system is introduced in Russia. It's called Putinocracy. Russian officials lie again. This time it's about average salaries for Russian citizens. Russian central bank is going kind of crazy. Russian parliament speaker makes a big mistake. The city of Orsk dam let go and it's being flooded right now. Russia to start closing empty prisons as prisoners are discharged and sent to the war. And the biggest news of the week, a powerful Russian senator speaks the truth. He admits that Russians will not be protected from drone attacks and should start defending themselves. Welcome to another crazy Friday Russian news update. There have been so many crazy news this week that I had to leave many out, otherwise this video would be too long. And boy, I've had adventures before turning the stream on, as power outages season in Tashkent is on. It has officially begun. Howdy friends, my name is Konstantin. Welcome to Inside Russia, where usual Russia is explained by the usual Russian. Welcome to Fridays. Thank God it's Friday. I give you crazy news updates straight out of the mad circus that Russia has become. But first things first, remember, there's no such absurdity that could not be realized in Russia. Please remember that. Before I start with the news, there's a little joke for you. A Russian walks into a bar. He comes to a bartender with an intention to order a beer. The bartender looks at him and asks, "What is it like to live in Russia these days?" The Russian looks at the bartender and goes, "I cannot complain." And the first real Russia's news of this past week, or couple of weeks, comes from Russian president himself, Vladimir Putin, the Dark Lord. You know, let me tell you something. Let me be very blunt with you. Among other things, it is very confusing to be living in Russia these days. Confusing. You look at the TV picture and it is completely different from the reality. What do you believe? The TV or the reality? I mean, the TV can't lie, right? Or sometimes it's Russian officials. They say something, then they turn around and say a completely different thing. For example, the good Russian president Vladimir Putin himself. Just check this out.
Россия не может быть объектом террористических атак со стороны исламских фундаменталистов.
He makes a public statement on March 25th, televised for the entire country. Then he makes a completely opposite statement to what he said a few days earlier on April 4th, just 10 days apart. And it is also televised for the entire country. And yes, that's the same country in both cases. That's Russia, just in case you're wondering. I told you, it gets very confusing. It's puzzling. Like, what the hell? But after much thinking about it, you know, I think I got it. I think I figured it out. Check this out again.
Мы знаем, что преступление совершено руками радикальных исламистов. Россия не может быть объектом террористических атак со стороны исламских фундаменталистов.
If you take into consideration one thing, everything becomes crystal clear. You see, in Russia, there's Putin's democracy called Putinocracy, where every Putin is entitled to his own opinion. Different Putins, different opinions. There you go. A mystery solved. Sherlock. Let's move on. Now, let's get serious. Let's talk Turkey. No, not Turkey the country, but Turkey, you know, the Turkey. And how do we get serious in Russia? Of course, by listening to Russian officials. That's no-brainer. A couple days ago, Russia's Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin said that he disagreed with the leader of the Communist Party of Russia, Gennady Zyuganov. You see, Zyuganov had announced that Russia has an incredible amount of impoverished people, and that people's salaries are incredibly low. And the good Prime Minister immediately retorted. Mishustin said that the average salary in Russia is 73,000 rubles, an equivalent of around $780. What? 73,000 rubles an average salary in Russia? I had to read that twice. I think an average reaction to Mishustin announcing publicly that the average salary in Russia would be, 73,000 rubles would be this. There are three types of lies in Russia. Lies, blatant lies, and statement by officials about average salary in Russia. The next news is also about the average salary in Russia. Well, kinda. It's, different news mixed, combined. Russian statistics agency Rosstat did the unthinkable. Rosstat discredited Vladimir Putin. It discredited Putin's stability, 24 years of it. Putin says that Russians are doing great, that Russia has withstood all the sanctions. Russian people started earning so much more money than they earned before that now they can finally afford chicken meat and eggs. Therefore, they ate all the chicken meat and all eggs, and the prices have gone up because of that. But according to Rosstat, it is increasingly difficult for Russians to make ends meet. According to Rosstat, this recent data it released last week, Russian citizens have been tightening their belts due to consistently high inflation. I believe Rosstat. I know that that's true. According to Rosstat, in Russia in 2023, almost 8 million people stopped paying their housing and communal services. They stopped paying their utility bills. According to the latest available data from Rosstat, the total amount of debt owned by Russians for the utilities amounted to 876 billion rubles. Compared to 2022, the debt increased by 72 billion rubles, and that's a record jump. It is confusing again. I told you life in Russia is confusing. The puzzle again. Let's try to figure this one out together. A regular monthly utility bill in Russia for an apartment of a medium size, let's say 60 square meters or 600 square feet, is around 9,000 rubles, give or take. I know, as I used to live in Russia for a long time. Now, is this possible that Russians, those very same Russians that earn 73,000 rubles on average, according to Russia's Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin, those filthy rich Russians who eat large amounts of chicken meat and eggs, according to Vladimir Putin, now, how is this possible? They don't pay their utilities. They're swimming in money, The bills are only about 12% of what they earn monthly, according to Mikhail Mishustin, the Prime Minister. They don't pay 12% of their monthly income and rather deal with courts, nasty collectors, and, their electricity cut off, their water cut off, and stuff like that. It's not so pleasant things, Strange, right? Well, you know what? There's a Sherlock for you again. I cracked this one too. You see, that's what happens. Easy. Russian people take those imaginary 73,000 rubles and go straight to the cashiers of the utility companies. And they give them imaginary money to pay the utility bills. And the cashiers take their imaginary money and thank them, saying, well, your imaginary debt is reduced by this imaginary amount you just gave us. But you still have to come back with real money to pay off real debt. I love this guy. Therefore, the real utilities debt growth every month, and now is record high throughout Russia. There you go. Another mystery solved. By the way, when I was making today's crazy news update, I had to select a few news out of 40 or so other news. And if you want to get more news like this, but every day, 9 news every day to be exact, and with my comments and analysis, you can become inside Russia's Patreon at patreon.com. You'll get the access to all the news and be informed of what's currently happening in Russia. The links to sign up are down below. And the next news is, well, another mystery. I kid you not. Check this out. I quote, "There are difficulties with servicing imported cars. Dealers have been noting shortages of spare parts, and car servicing companies have had difficulties with procuring parts. The catalog of the automakers are either missing altogether or available only in Chinese. For brands officially represented on the Russian market, there are fewer difficulties with service, but there are big problems with the logistics." I unquote. Well, the mystery is in the speaker. Guess who said that? Guess who I just quoted? You're not going to believe it. The head of Russia's central bank, Elvira Nabiullina herself. Well, it's a good thing that the officials have finally started publicly accepting what at first only social networks, social media mentioned, and then representatives of the automobile industry began to speak of, but very cautiously, kind of being afraid. Now, the central bank openly warning everyone, troubles in Russian auto industry. And it's a good thing that they're speaking up. But why the head of the central bank? You see, Elvira Nabiullina, she doesn't like Chinese cars. She likes German cars. I mean, you won't find the Chinese among Russian leadership. Mercedes and BMWs, that's pretty much all they ride in. But anyway, why Elvira Nabiullina were talking about trouble with logistics in auto industry? Where is central bank and where is auto industry? Why the head of the central bank? Now, this remains one of those unsolved mysteries. At least I couldn't solve it. Perhaps you have the answer. Let me know down in the comments of what you think connects Elvira Nabiullina and the Chinese cars. Coincidence? Some craziness, or perhaps conspiracy. And the next news is another puzzle. This is a puzzle night. And it's from a powerhouse Russian politician again. That's just trying to overwork me today. It's hard solving their puzzles, Now, this is what Vyacheslav Volodin, the Speaker of Russian Parliament, recently said. Let me quote the good speaker senator, or senator, speaker, whatever. In Europe, the leaders, they don't have such popularity in their countries. No one votes for them anymore. They come up with all these technologies. There's no direct elections. They cut people off the society, put them in prisons, and send them to exile. Send unwanted candidates to exile who they are afraid of. They need to get in line at the office of our President Vladimir Putin as soon as possible. They need to come, apologize, congratulate him with another presidential victory. Tell him about their sins, what they have done, and they need to do it as soon as possible. Because if they don't, not only the Hague awaits them, but also many other things. They create terrible things without thinking much. I unquote good Senator Speaker Vyacheslav Volodin. In addition, the Speaker of the Parliament said that Putin's victory is an opportunity for many countries and people to preserve their independence. And because of this, the elections in Russia are so important for the world, the whole world. Now, I don't know how about you folks, but to me, that seemed like a very odd speech. I was puzzled. I mean, that's another puzzle. They just throwing puzzles into me lately, you know? I've been thinking, some things actually make sense, but something is very wrong. Something is very off. Something, you know, thinking, and then, boom, I get an insight. Something is not in its place. Well, you know, it's a difficult riddle. A puzzle, it's like 4 out of 5 stars or whatever, you know, 8 out of 10. But I solved this one too. The good speaker senator, the good senator speaker, the good whatever, you know, he misplaced names. Perhaps he made a mistake. Instead of European leaders, he should have put Putin and vice versa. And then everything makes perfect sense all of a sudden. There you go. Another mystery solved. You know what? I was wondering why. Why the good senator, the good speaker, senator, whatever, why he would make such a mistake? I mean, he's a big shot. He's number 5, 6 in the hierarchy of Siloviki, the power of vertical of power and so forth. He's on the very top. Why would he make such a mistake? But you know, Russian parliament is a very interesting place. It's, how do you call it? Well, things happen there. Well, things like this. For example, some people, perhaps they party, perhaps they celebrate. Just check this out. That's another good Russian senator.
Происходит наше противодействие. Оно очень хорошее, но вот хотелось бы подумать, а как мы будем отвечать-то им? Или
the good Russian senator seems a little bit tired.
Это же страшное оружие на самом деле.
They shut him off finally.
Да.
Пожалуйста.
Well, perhaps that's how mistakes are made in the parliament. It's no big deal. Now we understand. The mystery is solved. The puzzle is, it's all in the places. The next news is crazy. As for the first time today, there's nothing mysterious about that. How do I say that? The commissioner for human rights in the Krasnoyarsk province, Mark Denisov, said that 2 prisons will be closed in the province this year, 2024. Large prisons. This will happen due to the fact that many prisoners were discharged and went to the war with Ukraine. You know, this is a sign that the tide has turned. But for all my life, I was born and raised and lived in Russia for a long time. I had heard that Russia did not have enough prisons, and prisoners were packed in cells as sardines in cans. But that was before the war. Now, things are different. I don't even know how to comment this news. I would say that I don't know what to say. I'd say that what I'm going to show you the next explains the situation the best. And this is Russia 2024. The next news comes from the city of Orsk, and it's a city on the border with Kazakhstan in Russia's southeast. You can get a pretty good idea of where it is. North of Kazakhstan, south of Russia, in the east. Something not good is happening there right now as I speak. This video just came in. A dam was broken and the city is being evacuated now. There are sirens everywhere. About 4,000 houses are in the direct danger of being flooded right now, and as far as I understand, massive evacuation that I hope will not turn into chaos, and I hope that no people will be harmed there. But please keep on tuning in. I will be updating you on what's happening in Orsk. Okay, before we move to the last news, I'd like to ask you a favor. Please let me know what you think of this news selection down below in the comments. Do you like them? Anything you liked more, and perhaps something you didn't like? Please let me know in the comments. I appreciate that very much. I really would like to get your feedback. And the last news of the day comes from Kazan, and it's pretty darn serious. 2 days ago, in Kazan, there was a drone attack. The Ukrainians attacked a factory that was manufacturing military drones used to kill Ukrainians in Ukraine. And this is what happened. From what I understand, no one was hurt there. Again, check this out. Oops, wrong picture. Drone attack. It's a big news, but not big enough to be the biggest news of the Friday update, despite the fact that Kazan is far away from the Ukrainian border. It's in the east of Russia, well over 1,000 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. Check out how large that drone is. It's like a small plane. It's like a Cessna, something like that, you know. Imagine that plane, that drone, unmanned aircraft, flying 1,000 kilometers, unnoticed, undetected, from Ukraine to Russia. But even that is not enough to make it the biggest news. Because drone attacks happen in Russia, a dime a dozen now, and that does not surprise me much. The biggest news is the reaction of a government official that followed the attack. And this reaction, this news, could be the craziest news out of all them news that I have presented so far in this crazy news update every Friday. Kazan province governor Rustam Minikhanov, a very respected and powerful politician in Russia, the leader of Tatar people, officially said, I quote, "Wake up, guys. No one will protect you except yourself. No need to wait for missile defense to work. it solves other tasks. We have to solve it on our own. Every enterprise, every municipality, every city. High end quote. To solve it, he meant to defend themselves. The respected governor addressed the Tatar people, telling them to wake up and start defending themselves from air attacks. Russian air defense, the armed forces of Russia, are solving other tasks, and they're not going to defend the people. I have a question. What tasks are they solving? Isn't army has one and only task to protect Russian citizens? What tasks are they solving? Again, this confession comes from very respected governor. Kazan region is one of Russia's most developed provinces, and the city is great. I've been there myself, and I admire the city. And I think that the governor Minikhanov is also responsible for that, making Kazan and the province one of the leading places in Russia. And he publicly confessed of something very serious, of that Russian citizens needing not count for protection. And that's pretty serious stuff, you know? But judging how Russian armed forces are protecting other regions, other provinces, including Moscow, Minikhanov's outcry is justified. No one is going to protect Tatar people. No one is defending regions much in what makes Kazan so special. Just one question. How does Minikhanov think the Tatar people should defend themselves against future drone attacks? By buying drone guns from China? Really? You know, again, check this out. I doubt that drone guns would help against this thing and things like that. Or perhaps they should go to America and ask to sell them Patriot anti-missile systems. Oh, just interesting how people should protect themselves. Another question is, what happened to the tax money that people were paying for the decades? And those money should have gone for protection, you know, including air protection. According for some experts, former military personnel, generals who used to serve in air protection, around 20 trillion rubles were spent over 25 years for air defense system. So where are they? Where are they? And that's an interesting question. I just wonder one thing, folks. Why no one in Russia is asking that? It's their money. Their money is being stolen out of their pockets, and no one seems to care. Folks, what is this? This is madness. You know what I think? I think that the governor Minikhanov is right. The guys in Russia should follow his address and finally wake up, because no one is going to protect them. They gotta start asking questions, and the biggest question is why they are bombed. Why? What Russian troops are doing in Ukraine? Wake up, just like Governor Minikhanov said. That's it for the news update today. And if you like today's news update, you can buy me a coffee or at buymeacoffee.com. The link is down below. And now I suggest you check out another video I made documenting how we Russians live after leaving Russia for good. Link is right here.